Money Arata. What is the difference between proof of work and proof of stake? To answer this technical question, let's first understand the kind of problem that we're trying to solve. Imagine you are given the mission of creating a digital money system that will serve the entire planet. This is a job of enormous importance because people's lives depend on having access to their own money and making secure transactions. Therefore, the money cannot be at risk of disappearing or being misappropriated. How could you protect this system? Well, to answer that question, you need to understand that deep down, money is information. So your mission is to have a secure database. This database has to tell you exactly how much money each person has and record the transactions that are happening between people. And to protect this database, you could use a well-protected, audited supercomputer. That supercomputer would be in an underground vault in a secret location and defended by heavily armed guards. Furthermore, an independent audit team would occasionally examine the transactions to ensure that there is no fraud going on. The problem with this model is centralization. Regardless of how much care is taken to protect the vault where the database is located, there is a risk of the computer being attacked by remote hackers. The physical location of the vault may leak, guards can be surrendered, auditors can be corrupted or deceived. Although the cost of breaking the security system that we're presenting here is very high, the reward is also high, so the risk cannot be ignored. Every centralized system is vulnerable. Therefore, a robust model must be decentralized. In the decentralized model, you don't need safes. There are no supercomputers, no guards, no audit firms. In a decentralized model, the database of this digital money is managed by all points in the network. And the only way to attack the network is to attack all the computers that are part of the network. There's no single point to be invaded, bribed, threatened, or deceived. However, there are other types of risk. To address the risks of decentralized currencies, there are two main solutions: proof of work and proof of stake. Let's understand each of them now because there are many myths and misinformation in circulation. You need to know about this information in order to make your decision to where to leave your money. Please note that this is not financial advice. Read the full disclaimer before proceeding. Money is serious business. Organization is necessary so it doesn't become a mess. A digital money system needs to provide security to all participants, so people can be confident that the money will not suddenly disappear, transactions will be honored, and the money will not be inflated. Until recently, we used centralized models for money control. And the reason we are used to centralized money is the ease. When you have a command center, it is relatively easy to enforce the rules and define what is valid and what is not. If something goes wrong, you can use your administrative access and change the database to make corrections. For example, if you forget your credit card password, you can call the central of the bank and then you can ask them to help you to change your PIN, your password. On the other hand, if you forget your Bitcoin wallet password, there is no one you can turn to for help. In the case of a decentralized system, there is no authority in charge. There is no possibility for a single agent to edit the database. But if there is no one with central authority, how is information organized in a decentralized system? This is a big challenge that needs to be solved. Finding a way to organize the decentralized money is necessary to keep it from becoming a huge mess. Some information that is considered truth must be propagated throughout the network, and information that is found to be false should be rejected. For example, if you buy an online course from Arata Academy and if you pay in Bitcoins, you will get an extra discount. As soon as you pay with Bitcoins, the Arata Academy website automatically sends you the password. Sending the Bitcoins from your wallet to my wallet should be considered to be a valid transaction. But if you try to defraud the system, saying that you have a huge amount of Bitcoins in your wallet when in fact you do not, well, this is a type of transaction that needs to be detected as fake. It should not be propagated throughout this decentralized network. A decentralized network is only useful if it manages to preserve true information. And to know what is true, it is necessary that coordination takes place between all points in the network to reach a consensus on what is valid or not. Therefore, the technical name for organizing the decentralized network is consensus mechanism. There are several proposed consensus mechanisms. In the case of a secure money network, it is necessary to use proof of work. Proof of stake is also a consensus mechanism, but it is inferior and does not guarantee the necessary security for a money network. Proof of work uses electrical energy, and this is important. Proof of stake is an inferior method to protect money. You may have heard criticism about Bitcoin's energy expenditure. We have already demystified part of this story in the episode number 7 of the Money Arata series. A secure system of strong money is important to guarantee human rights such as liberty and the right to property. If there is electrical energy being used for this important purpose, we can say that this is an application of great value, great utility. The energy used gives Bitcoin a unique property, which is unforgeable costliness. Conversely, there are other, less important activities that consume much more electricity than Bitcoin. Private jets, Christmas lights, TikTok, and even tumble dryers use more energy than Bitcoin with, you can say, a far less important return to society. Bitcoin uses 0.1% of the world's energy, and much of that energy is clean. This energy is put to good use as it is used to make the Bitcoin network the safest on the planet to protect your money. We talked about in detail about proof of work in the previous episode of the Money Arata series. To recap, proof of work was adopted by Bitcoin to ensure network security. Simply put, every transaction made with Bitcoins needs to be verified. An important part of this verification is done by the miners. When you try to make a transaction by moving your Bitcoins, that transaction needs to be added to a new block. Miners are the ones who create new blocks, and they verify that your transaction meets all the requirements. If the transaction is acceptable, it is inserted into a data block. This block needs to be added to the blockchain, which is Bitcoin's public and distributed database. It contains every transaction ever made in Bitcoin's history. For a block to be added to the blockchain, the miner needs to submit a proof of work. This proof of work is a special number that solves a maths problem. It is only possible to find the right number through plenty of trial and error. If a miner presents a new block containing the correct special number, this is undisputable proof that he has invested in equipment and electrical energy. It is proof that he has really worked for the security of the network, hence the name proof of work. As a reward for doing everything right, the miner receives some reward bitcoins when he creates a new block. Examining this from the perspective of game theory, all participants in the Bitcoin network are forced to act honestly, otherwise they would face huge financial losses. The high computational power required in proof of work is one of the main factors that make Bitcoin the most secure financial network on the planet. Even though it is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, Bitcoin has never been hacked to this day and probably will never be. People who do not understand this strategic value of proof of work have been critical, using other consensus mechanisms such as proof of stake. The criticism that Bitcoin wastes a lot of energy is wrong on several levels. The Bitcoin network is a revolutionary way of handling money. According to Dan Held, Bitcoin's energy use is orders of magnitude less than the energy use of the fiat money system. Fiat money system is the money of the governments. Bitcoin even incentivizes the progress of new clean energy projects. It is advancing our civilization. But even with the advantages of using Bitcoin, one question that could be asked is whether there is any alternative to reaching consensus in a decentralized money network. The premise of proof of stake is that the current competition among Bitcoin miners seeing who gets the cryptographic puzzle first is a waste of energy. And as we have seen, this premise is false because energy use is an important security component. As electricity comes at a cost, participants in the Bitcoin network are forced to remain honest and abide by the network's rules. If they try to break the rules, they'll have wasted energy and they'll have no financial benefit. The proof of stake proposal is to replace this competition with some random choice. That is, instead of all miners competing to see who solves the puzzle first, this system would randomly choose a participant from the network, and that participant would be responsible for validating the block. For this reason, in proof of stake, miners would be called validators. Not all network participants would be drawn as validators, because to be a validator, a participant of this network would have to deposit, stake a certain amount of coins on this network as participation. This is where the name proof of stake comes from. Stake can also be thought as a bet, in the sense of having something to lose. It is as if the participant were betting their own money in order to be drawn as a validator. The more money that is put as proof of stake, the greater the chance that a network participant will be chosen as a validator. It is like playing the lottery. If you buy a ticket, you have a certain chance to win, but if you buy 10 tickets, you are 10 times more likely to win than if you had only one ticket. Now, the proof of stake problem is a little bit obvious. More money invested equals a greater chance of being chosen as a validator. As cryptocurrencies they use, proof of stake often have pre-mine, they don't have Bitcoin's unforgeable costliness attribute. These other cryptocurrencies are tokens created out of thin air, initially distributed to the founders of the network. As they already have many tokens, they earn even more tokens by doing the stake. This favors those with more money and encourages the formation of groups with a lot of money to become increasingly rich. Proof of stake uses less energy than proof of work, but it does not solve the consensus challenge. When a network participant stakes their tokens and is drawn to be a block validator, he'll have to verify that all the transactions in that block followed the consensus rules. If everything is acceptable, then the validator adds that block to the blockchain and also receives the fees that were paid for each transaction of that block as a reward. However, if the validator approves any irregular transaction, due to malpractice or just bad faith, he will automatically lose part of that money that he deposited in order to become chosen as a validator. Therefore, this deposited amount can be considered a participation, a bet, a stake, since the validator can lose that money being slashed, the money that has been invested, if he doesn't do the job properly. The incentive is financial. Whenever the share is greater than what the validator gets from transaction fees, the network can rely on it to correctly perform the job of validating transactions and maintaining the security of the network. And when the participant wants to stop being a validator, he will be able to get back that money that he deposited and also all the transaction fees that were received after a certain period of time. This interval is the time that the network still needs to punish the validator in case he approved any irregular transaction. At a glance, it seems that proof of stake serves the same purpose as proof of work in ensuring valid transactions at the financial risk of losing some money through dishonest behavior. However, those who dig deeper will find weaknesses in a proof of stake. Since the year 2015, through a paper by Andrew Poelstra, we already know that it has intrinsic flaws that are impossible to solve. Even though it consumes less electrical energy, proof of stake carries additional security risks compared to proof of work. There are three scenarios in which it fails. Number one, in case of needing to reboot the network. Number two, in case of partitioning the network. And number three, in case of loss of private keys of large value holders. The explanation for each one of these scenarios is quite technical, and I'll leave the reference link for those of you who want to go deeper. For a network that takes care of money, this kind of vulnerability cannot exist. Money is important. Even though proof of stake risk cases are extremely unlikely to happen, merely the fact that it is possible makes it unsuitable for a money network. This is why Bitcoin continues to use proof of work, even though the proof of stake proposal was introduced in 2011, still in the early years of the network's operation. Technically, change is possible. Ethereum, which is a cryptocurrency, is transitioning from proof of work to proof of stake. It is not a simple and fast process, but technically, it is possible. In addition to Ethereum, several cryptocurrencies smaller than Bitcoin are using proof of stake. They will allow us to learn the efficiency and the security of this consensus mechanism over time. As should be the rule in a free market, let's allow the best one to win. Keep studying, and you will have only benefits to reap. Proof of stake is an alternative to proof of work. Proof of stake promises to consume less electricity, but it also has downsides and can reduce the security of the network. Bitcoin will continue to use proof of work, and there is no prospect of change in the short or medium term. However, other cryptocurrencies are using proof of stake, and over time, the market will be able to tell which is the best solution. This was a very technical and theoretical episode. For those of you who want practical information on how to make a profit with Bitcoin and also cryptocurrencies, I invite you to check out our Diamond Hands course by attending a special class on Bitcoin at arata.se/diamondhands.